I just saw another superhero movie. Yay! So, Far From Home. Basically, my impression with going into this movie and having it sit for a day, I enjoyed it. Yeah, there's not really any hot takes in this review at all. Far From Home follows the story of Peter as he's going on his high school science trip. They're going on a trip to Europe. This is taking place, of course, after the events of Avengers Endgame. One thing that I thought this movie did really, really well is establishing itself in that timeline. Endgame was, of course, a pretty heavy movie. This movie was wise in that it didn't try to gloss over that, or it didn't try to carry over any of that heaviness from Endgame. And the film was really clever in how it established basically where all these students are with all this, how the world is reeling from it, and how they are personally dealing with this, with, classmates and siblings and friends just all of a sudden being blipped back into existence. And in that, I will say that I did think that the first half of the movie, I think it was about the first half, I was watching it and my thoughts were, okay, it's enjoyable. But things get really, really interesting with the villain. Peter's on this science trip and he gets approached by Nick Fury. Fury wants him to take up the mantle of more or less the new Iron Man. And through Nick Fury, he is introduced to this other hero called, that Peter dubs Mysterio. This isn't a spoiler. We all know Mysterio is the villain. So I knew he was going to be the villain. I wasn't sure how. And what they choose to do with him, and his whole outlook, what his villainous vision is, I was surprised by it. I'm not sure if they took that from the comic books. Again, not quite a spoiler, but just talking a little bit about the themes of this movie. Spider-Man Homecoming is, the 20-something? It's the 20-something. How many Marvel movies has there been? There's a lot of them. So this movie is coming in a time where we know the tropes, we've seen it all. And what this film really cleverly does is kind of bring that up. There's also themes around just the spectacle of being a superhero. And in that, I'd say they're kind of saying something about the spectacle of superhero movies themselves. The villain Mysterio's power is all about creating illusions, and I loved that. They really used that to cement that theme of just spectacle. And this movie's a trip. Like, what they choose to do with these illusions is, actually, it's difficult to say that it's mind-blowing because it's not necessarily anything that we haven't seen before. Like, we've all seen Doctor Strange. We've seen that spectacle before. But whereas in Doctor Strange, I feel it was more to show the limits of these powers, or the expanse of these powers and what they can do, what they can look like. That what they do in Spider-Man Far From Home is use that spectacle as a weapon. I just gotta say, like, sitting there in the theater watching Mysterio do his thing and Spider-Man go through all this, it actually gave me, like, anxiety. It's very, very rare that I go to a superhero movie like this and actually feel like, I don't like this. It's also very disorienting, and I think that was the whole point behind Mysterio. So, hats off to it. I had a great time there, and I think that was that villain reveal, just with his motivations, and actually seeing what he can do and using his powers. That was the tipping point for me for the movie. In all seriousness, though, I could relate to a lot of this movie. I really like that there were kind of themes around like what you want to do versus what you feel your duty is, or what you should do. Because you have this story about Nick Fury trying to try to pressure Peter into this insane position with these huge shoes to fill. And it's really focusing on Peter and the stress he feels just as this regular high school kid. This responsibility has been thrust upon him. Aside from that, I really enjoyed seeing these characters again. I love that it was just like a small school trip, and you get this little tight-knit group of students that all work really well off of each other. I really enjoyed Peter and MJ in this. A lot of the times with these kind of sarcastic, darker characters, I'm a little tentative too, because they kind of drift into that really archetypey, stereotypey category where they're all just trying to be an April Ludgate from Parks and Rec. She had some depth in this, and it was really fun to see that very authentic performance of awkward high school relationship. And I think a lot of people, especially young people, are going to very heavily relate to the idea of having that vision for yourself of what you want to be when you grow up, or just in general, the kind of person you want to be, and how that conflicts with who you are now and what you want to do in your heart now. And it really makes Peter feel, again, very human, very down to earth. Would I see it again? Yeah, I'd see it again. Guys, this has been my review for Spider-Man Far From Home. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can look forward to some more of these more short, condensed review videos in the future, as well as some of my more, I did say reviews. I'm sick of this. Just subscribe. Just subscribe.